You recognize on point of personal interest. It'll get you some orders. May want to.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I rise at this moment for significant things in our state, including our one of our great universities being here. And obviously, we're on the cusp of an economic development project that we've been talking about. We're talking about all that is good in South Carolina. And I don't see him in the chamber now, but with all due respect to my colleague, the senator from Richland, I'd like to welcome him back after 6 weeks of trial. I stand here and to be brief and stay within my 5 minutes, but I want to be able to end up saying is that as the trial of the century comes to an end in Walterboro, Colleton County, we stand with you today to show the appreciation that we have for the judicial performance. Now, I realize that we have a lot of things that we could end up talking about when we talk about the trial of the century. And I think it was something that we would be proud of as it relates to one of our great judicial performances of the century. Whether or not you agree with rulings and those kind of things, and we obviously know that that's not the end of the day discussion, because we know that there'll be some appeals or rulings made during the course of the trial, but no one can challenge. I want to make certain that we hear this. No one can challenge the acumen, the integrity, and temperament of Judge Newman. And during the trial, as many of you know, that Judge Newman had just lost his son, but he became as much a symbol of our state as our beautiful beaches, a symbol of our state as much as our sun-kissed mountains and our historic towns. And we're talking about today as to why we're a big attraction for this state and all over the country. But we'll just stand before you today and say he made us proud. And so while we have some vocal minorities throw stones at our judges today, what we know is that during those 6 weeks, day in and day out, to perform a very difficult job with great ability and integrity, we have a process here in our state that allows judges like Judge Newman to be elected as a judge. He became a judge to dispense justice on behalf of all South Carolinians based on his qualifications, not because of his politics, not because of his personal connections, but because of his contributions. And South Carolina provided the only soil that a judge like Judge Newman and have the oak and caliber that he have that could be planted into what we witnessed. The nation saw what the majority of us know, and that is the process and the manner in which we select judges gives us one of the best judiciaries in the nation. And sometimes it takes a moment in time like this one that we just experienced to appreciate what we have. And I'll take the moment also to say that we have a cutoff time of age 72. And Judge Newman reaches that process, reaches that number. God blessed him 70 plus 2 this year. He would no longer be able to serve because in our state, we have said we cut it off at that point in time. What a shame. As we continue to improve with science and we end up getting better, why then do we send that person back out there? And this was just a run in the park for him. I'm not trying to belittle it or anything. He's done tens and tens and tens of these cases before. We get a chance to recognize this one. Last point is that it has been some 20 some odd years since I've been here. And some say that I've seen 3 or 4 governors around before. And the question is that who do we have when it comes time if we let a governor pick the judges? What happens if we move to popular elections of judges? How does that happen? And so I'm just here to end up saying, one, I want to compliment a person of high integrity and caliber, not to end up commenting on the case. We all have seen that. You have your opinions, and I think that you get a chance to end up talking about that from years to come. But I will say, one, that how proud we are to have one of our finest that conduct themselves in that manner. Number 2 is that let's talk about how we're going to end up treating those that are in the twilight of their life. Whenever you get past 72, Are you able to serve? And I think the answer is yes. And as we continue to have bill after bill to come up to say how we elect judges, let's see, make certain that we don't keep people like Judge Newman. Let's make certain that they get a chance to end up serving. Thank you very much for listening.
Senator from Newberry, what purpose do you rise?
See if Senator will yield for just a question. And
I was hoping not to take questions because I want to make certain that I'm focused totally on Judge Newman.
Yes, sir. And this is totally about Judge Newman.
Senator,
Did you
Senator
know?
yield for a question?
I have.
Senator yield for a question.
Yes, sir, I will.
Senator yields.
I have had numerous comments about the judge, all very positive, not only from the state of South Carolina, but I've had numerous people from other states that watched the trial on TV who had nothing but praises to sing for the judge. Did you know?
Thank you. And I'll just say this, and before I say it, there were some stellar performances by a lot of folks there, okay? But the ones that we have a responsibility for is how we elect the judges. One point I'll end up saying is that we went to the basketball game this past weekend, and I can assure you that the greater electorate of our state, he was there. He could barely walk around for the people that wanted to spend a few moments with him. And it just shows you the beloved. Now, he understands that he maintains this position of neutrality. He is the ultimate mediator. And the jury does the work in that case. He was just doing his job, okay? And whether we agree or disagree, I mean, I think that there are some evidentiary issues that they'll end up addressing that are legal. But the point I was just making is that he's 72 years old this year, and we'll have him no more. He did the Walter Scott trial with Slager. He did the Uber trial. He continued to do this work all over this state, largely unnoticed. And he leaves the bench, barely having been known except for now. And now the world knows him, and he's made South Carolina proud.
Senator from Richland, what purpose do you rise, sir? Senator Harpootlian.
Point of personal interest.
At the point, Senator has given up the floor. Senator from Charleston, Senator from Kershaw, what purpose do you rise while the senator comes to the floor?
It's been a unanimous consent to also do a statement of personal interest at the appropriate time.
When you're recognized. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Senator from Charleston, what purpose do you rise, sir? Senator.
I'd like to ask the senators a question when he is done.
Why don't you go ahead and ask me the question?
Senator yields for a question. Senator yields.
I'm sorry, I've been in a snappy event for the last 6 weeks, so I'm just trying to
Senator yields for a
to the
question.
chase.
Well, Senator, I just want to make it clear, and I have great respect for you and your legal ability, but did Judge Newman rule against your side, your client?
On occasion. I mean, look, it's a 6-week process. We'd object, they'd object, he'd rule for us, rule against us. Now, are you asking me, do I think he made legal errors? Obviously. I mean, we're going to appeal. Does that mean I'm right? No. There's 5 folks across the street that'll make that decision, and then there's, federal court. So the process is working. I think that's I want to tell you.
Well, Senator, what I wanted to ask you, do you think, because I have an opinion on this, and one of the criticisms against the way that we elect and choose judges in South Carolina is that they'll be beholden to legislators once they get on the bench.
Didn't happen in this case.
Do you think that happened to you in this case, Senator?
Trust me, okay? I've got a couple big black and blue marks on this rear end of mine that will affirm that.
Please don't. We'll take your word for that. You don't need to show us. But I just wanted to raise. This is the most high-profile case probably in the history of South Carolina, and at least in the age of YouTube and internet, it certainly just grasped the attention of a nation and a world even. But I often hear this criticism that if the General Assembly elects judges, then they're going to be beholden to lawmakers. And I just wanted to make that point. That didn't happen to you during this trial, Senator.
There may have been a point, I've been doing this almost 50 years. There may have been a point in the distant past where, you had one senator per county. Home rule was typically from their home. And things, operated differently back then. There wasn't transparency. There weren't computer records. There weren't, and that's evolved so that we're electing a different generation, if you will, than when I started out. And I don't sense that lawyer legislators, I don't get it. I mean, what I will get accommodated on is schedule. You know, if I need a motion scheduled on a Monday or Friday to accommodate me, that's fine. But I don't go into any courtroom saying, you know, I voted for that person, or I know that. I mean, many of them at my age I knew before they were judges and have a personal relationship with them. I just don't see that. I don't see that happening. Now, I'm not telling you that doesn't happen, you know, in some remote rural area where, you know, it's a different environment than where I practice, although I just spent 6 weeks in a remote rural area, but I don't see that. I will tell you this. I've been around the country. I try cases all over the country over the years. Public election of judges is a disaster. I had a case in Texas.
I agree with that.
I had a case in Texas where we argued a motion, and the other side, apparently, just had local counsel, contributed a whole bunch to that guy. He was just beating us up. He got unelected before the ruling came out. We got another judge who our local counsel was friends with or contributed to, and we won. So, I mean, you know, friendship's one thing. Cash is something else. So public election's horrible, in my opinion. Having them appointed by the governor, I think, puts too much power in his hands. And by the way, we have a retirement system for these judges where they have to serve 20 years before they can draw down. So what are they going to be willing to do to make sure they get reappointed? I mean, I think, while there are problems with this system, I think this is the best system. Now, would I suggest reforms to the judicial merit selection process? Absolutely. And I'm going to do that this year as these bills come up.
I agree with you on that, but the one issue about popular elected judges, the scales of justice don't have any fingers to stick into the wind, and that's what will happen if we have popularly elected judges. The governor nominating and confirmation by advice and consent by the Senate, that is perhaps acceptable, but the main point that I wanted to hear, because I hear this time and again, that people think, members of the public think that we get special treatment as lawyer legislators, and this case demonstrated, I think, to a watching world, you did a great job, you represented your client well, the prosecution did a great job, you think there was some error, and that's your duty. If you think there may be, and you have an argument in a case that you appeal, but it's pretty clear that you as a senator did not receive any, nor your client receive any special treatment, and that is not the case in general in the state of South Carolina. And we have judges who are they're going to issue rulings that are impartial, and the most important thing you go to court all the time, but when your clients, usually their one and only day in court, and they're scared to death. They're worried, are they going to be fairly treated? And this system does produce judges like Judge Newman, who I have great respect for and always have, to rule justly and appropriately.
Well, and it's sort of unfortunate that, you know, what gets the attraction is the criminal case when most cases are civil cases involving money. And because they involve money, more often they're taken more seriously than, because all we're talking about is somebody's life here. Real money, that's where you would have problems. I don't see it. I don't see judges giving advantages to legislators because they elect them.
Senator, your 5 minutes. Senator from Charleston's 5 minutes has expired.
Unanimous consent to give the senator from Richland 5 minutes.
I think the senator from Lexington is going to do the same. So without objection.
The senator from Richland, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. With the senator from Charleston not asking me questions.
Without objection, the senator has 5 minutes.
Thank you. I originally got up here to say this. I got a number of emails, texts, especially from the senator in Lexington, wanting to know how I was. She always wants to know, am I eating well? Am I sleeping well? And I really appreciate those of you who reached out to me. In this maelstrom of a trial, it is hard to focus on anything except the trial. We stayed in Walterboro for 6 weeks. We stayed down there. We pretty well didn't go anywhere, do anything except work on this case. And I want to say a couple things about this process, but at first, my personal observations are that I've been doing this almost a half a century. And it's still, fun is the wrong word, but it's still as enjoyable today for me as it was almost 50 years ago when I began this process of trying cases. And I've tried hundreds and hundreds of them, big cases, little cases. I've won cases, I've lost cases. But that process, if it operates correctly, can be so satisfying to the lawyers. Now, the client, if they lose, they're not satisfied. If they win, typically they feel like they should have won anyway. So it's really not, it's not particularly fun for them or satisfying for them. The second point I'd make is this, and the senator from Charleston has questions about the integrity of the system. Now, I disagree with Judge Newman on some of the rulings he made. He ruled, we objected, it's in the record. The court, Supreme Court, Court of Appeals have a chance to look at it, and maybe even a federal court. But that's not based on bias, or he just had a view of the law different than I had. Now, the third thing I want to say is this. There are, and of course, unfortunately, people feel compelled to express their opinion on things through the internet. Somehow they got a hold of I guess it's on my website, my email. I really wanted that big case you had, but that's not what they chose to send me. Most of it was very positive. A lot of it were people that were watching this in Germany or England or the Netherlands, or wacky. I don't know, they don't have anything else to do in those countries, but a bunch of people here also gave me suggestions on a daily basis what we should do or how we screwed up yesterday. But the folks that sent me you are a rotten piece of scum, and I hope you die of, let me clean this up a little bit, rectal cancer, they have a misapprehension of the system. They have a misapprehension of our justice system. While they're very familiar with the Second Amendment, they apparently haven't read the Fourth, the Fifth, the Sixth, or the Eighth Amendments that guarantee us the freedom, or guarantee our freedoms of ourselves and our property. John Adams, the second president of the United States, in 1770, 8 British soldiers were charged with murdering colonial activists, demonstrators, who charged them. 8 of them were indicted and charged with murder. John Adams represented them. 1770. 6 were acquitted, 2 were convicted of manslaughter, none were hung or whatever. Now, he said that everybody deserves the presumption of innocence and the benefit of counsel. Why? I don't understand this presumption of innocence and everybody's entitled to a lawyer is such an alien concept. But trust me, there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, that me and my co-counsel, we got emails. Not all of them wished rectal cancer on me, but most of them are fairly critical. And so those are people that don't understand the Constitution. They also understand one other thing. I took an oath 49 years ago, and I pull it out from time to time and read it as a lawyer, because oaths matter. Your word matters. I will maintain the respect and courtesy due to the courts of justice, judicial officials, and those who assist them. To my clients, I pledge faithfulness, competence, diligence, good judgment, and prompt communications. To opposing parties and their counsel, I pledge fairness, integrity, civility, not only in court, but also in all written and oral communications. Now, I've not always upheld that particular oath promise there, but God knows I've tried. I will maintain the dignity of the legal system and advance no fact prejudicial to the honor and reputation of a party or witness unless required by the justice of the cause which I am charged. I will assist the defenseless or oppressed by ensuring that justice is available to all citizens and will not delay any person's cause for profit or malice. So help me God. This is an oath I took 49 years ago, and I take it seriously. And by the way, my interest, You don't have to convince me you're innocent for me to represent you. That's not the issue. The issue is, can the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt? And once you decide that position, you are free to do what is in your client's best interest. If your mind is muddled with, is he innocent or guilty, you cannot do your job. And I've prosecuted, I've put a man in the electric chair, I've defended a man who went to the electric chair. I've done both sides. I'm not a Red Sox fan or a Yankees fan. That's not what this is about. This is doing your job. So those who out there, this may appear on YouTube somewhere, who don't understand that, go read a book. Abraham Lincoln represented 20 murder defendants. Not all of them were acquitted, but he fought for every one of them. This is about a system. And by the way, that system doesn't exist in this state without us. That's the attractiveness of being in this body. We shape how that system works. So I've come back from 6 weeks overseas. And let me also, Margie's not here today, but Margie Matthews was very kind in letting us use her office to have lunch in every day to avoid the, and I know this sounds so vain, paparazzi who surrounded the Walter Borough Courthouse, Carlton County Courthouse. And by the way, the people that slept outside for nights to get into the courtroom, get some help. Please. Soon. Okay? There's something wrong with you. I mean, y'all cheered us when we came in or whatever, but you really, really need help. So thank you for being nice to me while I was gone. You took care of abortion. You have not taken care of guns. Majority Leader, you could have done it all and brought me back without having to deal with that kind of stuff. But I appreciate you at least getting some of the stuff cleared out.
The senator's time is about to expire. The senator.
Well, I'm expired. Okay.
Well, you've got
Thank
two.
you very much.
But you had Senator from Williamsburg. What purpose do you ask?
Unanimous consent request
State your request.
that the words from Senator from Richland be printed in the journal.
Without objection, so ordered. Did I hear objection? Senator, I've got the senator over here, and I'll come back. Senator from Kershaw, what purpose do you ask me?
It's okay.
Senator from Lexington, Senator Shealy, what purpose do you ask?
Could I make a quick introduction while the senator from Kershaw's coming up?
You're recognized for introduction.